Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm coming at you again with another video. This one's going to be for the Paladin. It's a build guide. It's a Void Cleave Multistrike build, which is kind of interesting. If you guys had seen my Erasing Strike, my Void Cleave Erasing Strike Void Knight, that's a mouthful, you'll know that it was pretty effective. It was a very popular build, had multiple requests for it, and so I decided to make a Paladin version. So quick little backstory. This past week on my live stream, by the way, information on my live stream is available in the description down below. Thank you. And so we took my Paladin, the good old hammered in Paladin, level 100, all that. We stripped him of all his gear, stripped him of everything, went back to zero, fresh blank canvas, except level 100, so we don't have to level everything again. And went through and just made a couple builds. Made a smite build, which I thought was cool. Could need some refinement, but it could have been anything. I didn't make a video for it. We made a warpath build. It just further confirmed to me that warpath, it's cool for leveling, but I think in in-game content, it's just not my cup of tea anymore. I tried really hard to make it work in the past, and this one I kind of used that knowledge, put it back in there. We were clearing 200 plus corruption, but I mean, I felt like it was kind of difficult. So unfortunately, I didn't even make a video on that. I talked about it on my live stream if that's something you guys are interested in. But yeah, so Warpath gone, and so basically we'd make the build, play it for like a day or two. We'd make it live on stream, play it that day, play it for another day, maybe even another one if I was really liking it, and then clear. It's gone. Goodbye, vamoose. And so we did that 3 times. And the last one was the Void Cleave Multistrike. I kind of got the idea for it by looking at the skill trees and seeing what can work with what. And I thought it was pretty freaking interesting. And I liked it a lot. And I've seen like 100K crits with this build. It is pretty effective. So I'm going to show you guys in the game, and if you don't want to see all that, that's fine. I've actually gotten off my butt and learned how to work with last Epoch tool planners. There's a link in the description down below. So if everything I told you has interested you enough and you want to go check it out, you can click that link, and if you don't mind, leave a like, possibly even comment, maybe even subscribe. But let's go check out the build. All right, welcome back. We are here in game, and so what I'm just going to show you what the gameplay loop looks like. Oh no, let's not do stolen lands. Let's do. I want to show you guys like some actual like 200 plus corruption. I would like a lot of my builds to do at least 200 corruption because you can farm. At least in omnis and a few other things. So let's just show you the build. Let's look around, see if there's a good little node I wouldn't mind taking. Let's go ahead and take this one. So this is 246 corruption. Enemies are going to be dealing a ton of damage. That's okay. I think we are tanky enough. So the key to this build is building up your stacks of multi-strike. You'll see right there in that corner. You'll see the armament. You want to build it up on top of it. It's not too bad itself. And then it just causes Void Cleave to do a nice chunk of damage. And it got it set up to where Void Cleave is also a traversal skill, so you can get some nice hops in there if you want to do that with the volatile reversal. We use Abyssal Echoes as a bit of a self buff. I'll explain how that works. If you guys have seen the Void Knight build, you'll have a pretty good idea of why I use Abyssal Echoes. Alright, let's go ahead and take a walk down here, figure this out. And this is kind of the basic gameplay loop. I like the fact, if you guys have seen my Void Knight build, I use Vengeance a lot in there simply just for staying alive, and it's next to useless. Whereas in here, Multistrike actually feels like it could do some clear if I needed it to. It's not just a simple stat dump. And I like that about that. There's an 80k crit. I gotta be careful because they are doing some damage. They are doing some pretty decent damage. Alright, let's kill this little boss boy and get out of here. We are tanky, but they are strong. Oh, this one's getting hairy. And there we go. You know, this build's got hops. And let's get out of there. Alright, well, we got some stuff. Alright. So, we got gameplay out the way. If that's interesting to you, let's go ahead and check out everything else. Alright, so you guys have seen the gameplay. Let's get to the skills. So, obviously I was already demonstrating what we can do with the skills in the gameplay, but we are using Holy Aura, Void Cleave, Volatile Reversal, Multistrike, and Abyssal Echoes. Let me go ahead and break down what each one does. So, with Holy Aura, I decided I wanted Holy Aura to not only boost our critical strike chance, but also help shore up some of our resistance deficits, so to speak. So, if you guys don't know, this is an in-game guide, so I'm assuming you already kind of know a little bit about Paladin. But Paladin does have a 30% damage increase with Holy Aura, as well as a 15% elemental increase, elemental resistance increase, just passively if the ability is active on your hotbar. It is doubled for 4 seconds if you activate Holy Aura, and it doubles all the skills in Holy Aura. So everything that we take here, everything gets doubled for 4 seconds. It's a great defensive boost and damage boost all in one for that 4 seconds. It works really well with the build we're doing now because it's all timed up to do this like one big one-hit punch KO type thing. So you get all your buffs going, you get all your stacks, everything going, you activate Holy Aura, and then you bring the pain. It's very nice. So we came down here and we picked up all 5 points in Shelter from the Storm. That gives us an additional 25% resistances as well as the endurance. Don't sleep on that endurance. Trying to get endurance on your gear can be annoying. I know, I've been kind of going through this. Vital Boon. We had to take 2 points here because we needed to pick up the poison resistance. Now, this node is actually very important. I almost took this away at one point because my poison resistance is Gucci now due to a legendary potential whatever. Anyway, my poison resistance is Gucci. I almost got rid of this, but then I realized this is the only way I can cleanse any of those pesky ailments. You know, those bleed, slow, all that. When you activate Holy Aura, it will cleanse the ailments. It is huge. I feel like this is almost a mandatory pickup on a lot of Paladin builds. Came down here, we picked up physical damage. Now, you guys might be curious about something because you saw me in the game playing with Void Cleave. I was doing fire damage, so why am I stacking physical damage and not stuff like this? I'll explain it here in a moment. Picked up 2 tabs right here. We needed this to get over here to the increased crit chance, and then down here to the increased critical strike multiplier. Now let's get on to Void Cleave. And we might come back to Holy Aura to show you guys some options that you might want to take. Possibly. And here we are. We are on Void Cleave. So we have increased cooldown, recovery speed. I like this a lot. Increased damage and area of effect. Very good. Precognition. This one's very good because not only does it increase our base critical strike chance while using Void Cleave, it also cannot be dodge. If you see my live streams, you'll see me complaining extensively about dodge. Not when I've been playing this Paladin, you know? It brings the pain, and those guys with dodge, F them. F them. You cannot be dodged. This thing is golden. Love it. We bring it up here to Riftmaker for critical vulnerability stacks, as well as an increase to the 150% crit chance. And then Champion of the Void, critical strike multiplier, 200% gain, and then a 4 mana gain on crit. This is nice. It helps us keep up with our mana. Very good. We did not take this because we're not using a Racing Strike. If you see my Void Knight build, this is a must. Come back over here to Abyssal Walker. I had to take 3 points here to get down to this node. If I could max this one out, I probably would if I can spare another point. But you'll see here in the build why I took the points that I did. So for Abyssal Walker, we get a little extra distance, damage 30%, very nice. So this build does not run a traversal skill. And I didn't do the little trick that I did with Void Knight by taking the resonating cleave down here to apply Abyssal Echoes. Because of one reason and one reason only. When we use Void Cleave and it applies Abyssal Echoes, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here. When Abyssal Echoes is applied, our next Void Cleave does 80% damage. Well, this lasts for a few seconds. By the time Void Cleave comes back around, it might still be there. You can get away with it. But I found it better to just activate it myself when I'm ready to bring the pain, and then bam. So instead of, having Void Cleave apply Abyssal Echoes and then using something like an unspec'd lunge, I just spec'd it into a traversal skill. I like it. It does pretty well, but that does add another second to our cooldown duration. Come back up here. I had to take 1 point here for the Ignite chance. This also converts 50% of the damage to fire. I brought it over here and got Hellish Chasm. This fully converts the damage to fire, as well as all of our void resistant shred nodes get turned into fire resistant shred nodes, and then damage on our next fire attack or spell is increased by 30%. And Blazing Steel, physical damage scales the fire damage on Void Cleave. That way Multistrike isn't left out here in the cold, because Multistrike only scales with physical damage. That's why Multistrike still feels decently good, and it's not just like gone, because if you guys have seen the Void Knight build, and I'm using Vengeance, it doesn't scale with void damage. It only scales with physical damage, and I've stacked nothing but void damage. Yeah. Multistrike can still clear. I like it. And this right here is kind of like the coup de grace, the creme de la creme. This node, you can get a ton of damage. So per stack of bleed, up to a maximum, you gain 8% damage. At 120% damage, which I think worked out to... What was the stacks on that hold? I'll skip ahead on this one. And welcome back. So at 15 stacks of bleed, you will be doing this maximum 120% damage. You can tell, especially against bosses, that's when you start getting those really big, juicy crits. Those ones that live long enough for you to apply that many stacks of bleed, it helps a lot, for sure. That's why I call it the coup de grace. Volatile reversal, this is pretty standard. I'll just breeze through this. Cooldown recovery, cooldown recovery, Void Rift on arrival, Void Rift area, enemy takes extra damage, Void Rift start, time sap, chance to recover, cooldown on kill, and boss hit, cooldown recovery speed, just trying to get that cooldown up. We get, how long does this last for? The length of time you travel, but this lasts for 2 seconds. So the global attack speed and the movement speed, this is very nice for rifting back and then running out of the way or running back towards your enemy real quick. Multistrike. So this is how we buff up Void Cleave. So I took this one, increases the duration of our stacks, as well as it increases our melee physical damage per stack of plus 10. And remember, Void Cleave now scales with physical damage. So the way we got it set up is it stacks up to 4 swords of armament. and we gain an additional sword while using a two-handed weapon, which we are. When Void Cleave is used, it consumes all those stacks of armament and deals additional damage per stack that was used, in this case up to 4, so that's a 60% increase to Void Cleave's damage. Very nice. Plus, Multistrike actually does damage. Next, we got Abyssal Echoes. So I already kind of jumped ahead and showed you, but I'll show you some more. This scales with Void and spell damage and vitality. We don't really use Abyssal Echoes for damage. We use it to debuff the enemy. We use it to apply slow, and enemies that are slowed by Abyssal Echoes, or just enemies that are slowed. Yeah, enemies that are just slowed, which this applies to slow. After using Abyssal Echoes, enemies will take an additional 80% damage on my next Void Cleave cast. Enemies also take an additional 20% damage, and we gain a 20% attack speed buff with Embrace the Darkness node. But the enemies have to be blinded, and we have a way to apply blindness. Spell Void damage, I had to take this point. To get down to here, increases the duration of Abyssal Echoes. To get down to here, which increases the blind. This is what blinds the enemy. That gives us our 20% damage buff. And then here, this increases the area and size. This increases the chains that allows the Abyssal Echoes to jump to multiple enemies. And that is the skills. All right, and next we're going to move on to the passive tree. So we got 30 points into Sentinel. I took Overwhelm, which adds physical damage to our attacks. If you are maybe lacking on defenses, you might want to consider taking this one away and buffing up these two nodes right here. This will give us vitality, max this all the way up to a +8, and this will give us up to a +8 to our strength, as well as increases to fire and void resistance. I didn't need it. I'll show you the gear on how that works out. Armor clad, I feel like this is a must for just about every Sentinel build because it actually gives you damage reduction when enemies are nearby. It works really well for melee builds, which, hey, we're a melee build. This actually helps Void Cleave because Void Cleave is now a traversal skill. So this gives us a 30% cooldown reduction on our movement skill. And then I took 1 point here to get... It helps a bit, especially when we're just like hardcore smashing with Multistrike. It gives us a little bit of health on hit, as well as some mana back. I feel like the mana management with this build is not too bad, because if you remember with Void Cleave, if we crit, it gives us mana back. The way we have Void Cleave set up, it's 100% crit. This here is an attack speed boost. I like it a lot. It helps us build up the stacks of Multistrike really well. And it works with swords or axes, which we are using an axe. So let's come down to the Paladin tree. The Paladin tree does look a little bare because we dip so much into Void Knight here. So I didn't see the need for the attunement and elemental resistance node right here under Defiance. I didn't take any points there because we already got Holy Aura, which, yeah, we're doing really well with our elemental resistances. Our Conviction right here, this increases our damage, as well as it gives us physical penetration, as well as fire penetration. And Void Cleave, I believe, scales with both fire and physical, or only physical. I'm unsure of the scaling. Let's take a look at the scaling tag. It scales with fire damage. It looks like it might scale with both physical and fire. Physical damage increases fire damage, and this also has the fire damage scaling tag. It doesn't say now scales with physical, not fire. So yeah, it's double dip squad right over here. Let's open it back up over here. So this is very good. I like this a lot. Took this to give us the health. The health is helps a lot with the melee build that's not using ward. Right here, I took this only for the endurance. The blind chance, I don't need it because I already got Abyssal Echoes, which applies blind. But you could also apply blind with this if you wanted. Holy Icon. Necrotic resistance and health. That's big. I took exactly what I needed, which came out to 6. This right here increases the armor and critical strike avoidance. I was taking it for the critical strike avoidance, so I didn't have to stack critical strike avoidance on my gear because we do have the blessing that gives us. It's a max roll blessing from the Reign of Dragons. I'll show you that here in a moment, guys. It's max rolled of 70%. So with this 30% from the tree, we now have 100% critical strike avoidance without having to take any critical strike avoidance on our gear. It's top tier. I took this for the health, the endurance threshold. It's a nice little buff. Plus, we can get a haste if we fall below. If we heal ourselves well below our endurance threshold. It's very nice. And this right here, Reverence of Duality, it increases our damage, our mana, our health. It's a nice little bump along the line. Let's go over to Void Knight. I took all 10 points here for the Void, the health, and the physical increases. 10 points here for the increase to Void and physical damage. Excuse me. 6 points here for the melee damage leech. This is our only source of leech right now. I'm not using Bleeding Heart. I'm not using gloves with leech on it. I'm not using a weapon with leech. This is the only source of leech. It works. We're not leeching as much as we normally do with like the Void Knight, but it's still it's a good amount of healing. And Doom Knight, 8 strength, 40 health. It is very nice. Well, I said there's one more note I haven't showed you. Strength and health. And we come back over here. For each point that we've taken in the Void Knight tree, we gain 1% critical strike multiplier. We've taken 35 nodes here. This is a 35% increase to our critical strike multiplier. Now, I have kind of messed around with this. I ultimately decided to stick with this, but you can remove points here and take them over to the Forge Guard, and maybe even here, and take it back over here to the Forge Guard tree, because you can increase this. If you've been hit recently, you have increased physical resistance and armor. Then you take a point here and a point here, and then you max this out, because increased damage with the two-handed sword, this goes up to 80%. I ultimately felt that the increases to health that we got from here, as well as the critical strike multiplier, was better than the increases we got from here. But this is an option. 10 points here, 1 point, 1 point, 8 points. Feel free to mess around with it and tell me what you think. With the way I got this build set up, it was a pretty hefty reduction in health. Like, I'm talking like minus 500 health plus. That was a lot. And that's the passive tree. All right, we're going to take a look at the gear. For the gear, we got a really nice Bardiche. 14% melee critical strike chance, 39% melee attack speed, stun chance, as well as armor shred chance. I think this thing is great. If you look at the implicits, it gives us 130 melee damage, as well as 153% chance to bleed on melee hit. If you guys remember, the Void Cleave does increase damage based off your stacks of bleed on melee hits. So with the attack speed buffs that we're getting from all these different sources, it's really easy, especially against a single target, to build it up with multi-strike and then bring the pain. This right here is going to be kind of a hard thing for a lot of people to get. A 2 LP Titan Heart, maybe not too hard to get that, but to get a max tier 7 strength, as well as a pretty, well, it's a low tier 5 15% increase health. It is nice. It works out really well. If you look down here in the corner, we have a maximum of 3,742 health. Very nice. Shattered Chains. This one's 1 LP, but we got ourselves a nice tier 6. It is nearly max hybrid health on here. Using Omnis. Again, this is This only drops at 200 plus corruption, and it only drops from Orbis. This is not going to be something that you find right away. As well, you need to be level 76 to wear it, but it really helps shore up a lot of our resistances, freeing up our points to be put somewhere else. If you don't have an Omnis, maybe use the character tree, the passive tree, to kind of shore up a little bit more of the shortages that you have on resistances, and then put something nice here. Good. Reigns, I got a nice double exalted strength and physical damage, as well as increases to health and endurance threshold. Siphon of Anguish, this one probably could be better, increase to our cold resistance and health, but the rolls on it are very nice. I like this a lot. I could mess around with this, but I think this works out just fine. Siphon of Anguish and Shattered Chains work pretty well hand in hand, as this helps you apply Doom, 25% chance to apply Doom. This gives us a 5% damage increase per stack of Doom, up to 4 stacks. It's pretty good. As for the helmet, I took this only because I wanted the strength. I could probably get a better helmet out there. It had some nice increases to health. The 28% of necrotic damage taken is physical. That's whatever, but a boost all around. If I could change this, I might take increases to Multistrike in place of the 28% of necrotic damage taken as physical. I do think the strength is very important because strength helps increase your armor. Come down here to the gloves. We have melee attack speed increase, critical strike chance increase, armor, health, and strength. And if we look at the implicits, that 12% endurance, that's a big one right there. That helps out a ton. So with these gloves and the rest of my gear, we actually have a 59% increase to endurance. I got to find 1% somewhere, but it's very good. And then a +3 to Void Cleave, which also gives us 117% increased melee damage. I did mess up with this. I feel like if I had put endurance percentage in place of the chance to apply frailty on hit, I feel like that would have been a little bit better for my build, because I wouldn't be married to this particular archetype of gloves. I do feel like I can get a better pair of gloves out there somewhere, but the attack speed and the critical strike chance help a lot. But I now need to use this archetype of gloves to get the endurance without having to put it on like my rings or something. Look over here at the idols, increase in armor. This one's an increase in armor as well. It's a 3 stack. I know we're not using Warpath, but a 20% increase to armor. You could swap this out for something else if you like. You could put like 3 of like these little guys right down there, health and armor, right along the bottom. But I felt like the 20% armor increase was pretty nice. And then all of these are health and critical, that sort of thing. That is the gear. Hey guys, Editor Bike here. I forgot to show you off my boots. Show off my boots to you, excuse me. Blood of the Exile. 30% movement increase. Main reason why we're taking it is it's a huge movement and speed increase, but also it increases how long our bleed duration lasts. That way we can build up to max stacks and not have it constantly falling off. 33% more physical ailment damage to moving enemies. My best understanding is that it's the ticks of bleed as they're moving around. That's the damage they're taking. I don't think we do extra damage to them on top of it. I think they just take more damage from physical ailment, from the bleed damage, and then strength, dexterity, intelligence. All right, cool. Back to what I was doing. All right, let's talk about blessings. Now, I told you guys that I did this timeline when I was doing a lot of Hammered In. I haven't changed out all of the blessings yet, and I probably won't because we're getting close to release. I might want to go back and try Hammered In again one more time. And the blessings here will suit Hammered In pretty well as this build, except there's like one node that you might be like, huh? Why is he using that? Well, it's a max rolled 5% of throwing damage leeches health. I don't want to change it out in case I gear back up as I hammered in just to, you know, experiment with some builds. So I've left it. If I had the choice, I would take either the Void Resistance Shred, because now it gets converted into a Fire Resistance Shred, or I would take like a Critical Strike Multiplier or Critical Strike Chance. We have 100% Critical Strike Chance while using Void Cleave, but we do not have 100% Critical Strike Chance while using Multistrike. Unique drops, I feel like this is almost everybody takes this node right here. This one was a shield drop rate. Again, this is back to hammered in because I was looking for a Bashing of Honor. Might change that out. I haven't given it too much thought. One-handed sword drops, again, whatever suits your build, whatever you're looking for. You could probably put it in two-handed axe if you're looking for Bardiche. Ailment shard drops, this one, whatever you're looking for, put it in there. Reign of Dragons, this is a max critical strike avoidance. I am never swapping this out. This is exactly what you need here in this for this blessing. Percentage armor, we got a good one. 66% increase to armor. We got a lot of armor on this build. I do think this one's really good. I'm probably going to keep this here unless I can get it up to the max of 70%. I hate doing this timeline, the last ruin. I hate fighting against Elder Gaspar. I hate playing against that guy. Even on 100 corruption, that dude, he could suck it. So I managed to kill him at some point. I don't remember what build, probably hammered in. I got the class specific shard drop rate and I took it, and I haven't gone back since. It's not even, it's a low grand blessing roll. I don't care. I'm not fighting Elder Gaspar anymore. And then this right here is a flat armor buff. Probably can get a better one, but this one goes hand in hand with this percentage armor increase. I like it a lot. Okay. And so all of that brings us to what our stats look like. We got 3,742 health, 75 strength, 13 intelligence. You can read that right there. 42% movement speed increase. We got the fire, lightning, cold, physical, poison, necrotic, void, all capped. We got our armor at 8,355 for a total of a 75% damage reduction against physical damage, and then a 52% reduction in fire, lightning, cold, poison, necrotic, and void. Dodge chance, I don't care. Ward retention, we're not a ward build. 100% critical strike avoidance, 59% endurance. Obviously, I need to get one more percent to be at cap. It caps at 60%. Endurance threshold is doing pretty good. So basically, if we fall below 830 life, that's when this endurance kicks in. So it's a nice little, helps us stay alive a little bit longer. If we go over here to the damage, we have an 85% increase to our melee attack speed, a 49% increase to our melee critical strike. But when we are using abilities like Void Cleave, we get these bonuses right here that add to only Void Cleave, and that's what gives us 100% critical strike chance with melee, with the melee when using Void Cleave. Let's go back over here. Critical strike multiplier 245%. Increased stun chance 230%. Melee stun chance 270%. Blah 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 blah. Increased melee damage. Increased physical damage. Yeah, that is the entire build. Thank you for sticking around this entire time. I know this is long, but I like to really explain my thought process. There is there's the last Epoch build guide planner in the description down below. I hope all of this information has helped you out. Thank you very much. You guys take care. Cheers.